Free agency technically opens tomorrow. We're in the legal negotiating period, and a lot of players have agreed to terms. We'll talk about the Bills' agreements and departure as well. Only one departure, though, Mac Hollins. The rest, I didn't see anybody else. Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline as we get set to talk about it. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good. You also have your State of the Bills series continuing at WGR550.com with the safety position, which is something we can get into today with free agency. So, rolling through your State of the Bills series. Is this the final installment?
I will do one more, but that'll be specialists. But honestly, guys, there's not a lot to talk about there because everybody's under contract, and that includes their longs. Actually, punter, I guess, is one that will be talked about. They do need a punter. They have a punter on the roster, actually. Yeah, Jake Camarda is the only punter on the roster right now. He's also, I believe might be Canadian as well. Speaking of signing these Canadian guys, I think he spent time up in CFL at least, and then he was with the Buccaneers. But Reed Ferguson, Tyler Bass, and then obviously Brandon Codrington. But I did post safeties today. Safety's an interesting one because there is a really good debate, I think, amongst Bills fans about whether or not they should pursue another safety that would go on top of Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop. I don't believe the Bills will do that. It's possible, for sure. I think that would cost money that I think they don't want to have to spend because they know they have Taylor Rapp, and I think they're very confident in Cole Bishop, but I do think they have to have depth at the position. But it's an interesting spot because a lot of fans think they need to sign someone on top of the guys they have.
Well, and I think most of the lists I've seen this morning, Sal, about like who's the top free agents remaining going into the second day of the tampering period, it's usually quarterbacks at the top, and the top non-quarterback I've seen is Javon Holland.
Yeah, I heard a lot of rumblings about the Jets being interested in him.
Okay.
Very interesting, but man, he's going to cost some money. And again, I think, and that's fine. I really like him. I think he's a fantastic player. I'm just looking at it from a Bills perspective of what do the Bills think they need to do with the roster. It just feels to me like Taylor Rapp is entrenched as a starter, right? I know some fans don't think he is. I think he is. You're getting him. He was a good player last year. He was steady. He really, I think, played a bigger role and was a better player than a lot of people gave him credit for or thought he'd be. And he's also on a very cheap deal. He's counting like $3.5 million on the salary cap this coming year. And then the question is next to him, Cole Bishop. And I just think, even though McDermott, for sure did not just want to hand him the job at the combine, it almost went the other way. Like, well, we'll see. I think that's because that's the way he talks about young players. But I think they're very confident in Cole Bishop. But I wouldn't be totally surprised. I just think it's not an area where they want to focus a lot of attention to spend money in free agency, and maybe they go out and they get another young guy or two guys to kind of come in and fill some depth. They will have to make some moves there, though.
You can check out State of the Safety position at WGR550.com. Sal, how about the moves from yesterday? Let's start with Josh Palmer. That's the first move, and I think it's it's funny. This is how free agency works, right? You sign a guy that's a mid-level guy and fits a need, and you're going to have some fans that are upset that it's not a better player. But for what Palmer is supposed to be for this team, how do you like the fit? How do you like the term, the money, and why does it make sense for the Bills?
Well, I'll just start with this. Free agency is about fit. That's what it is. The best teams operate by fitting in and constructing their roster for what they need around their roster. That's what free agency is about, especially teams that are as close as the Bills to winning a championship. This is not a complete tear down, rebuild, obviously. They're not just going out there and spending a whole bunch of money to bring guys in and say, we need to win some more games. That's not what they're trying to do. The Bills are right there. They're knocking on the door. They need the guys to fill in the little pieces that are missing on the roster to help them get to the next step. And I think everybody would agree that one of the huge things that was missing last year, very evident, we talked about it every Monday, it seemed like, on this show, guys, is they had a lot of trouble beating man-to-man defense. I remember specifically after the Ravens game, this started. The Ravens game was the first one. They go down to Baltimore, they lose the way they did. And I remember coming out here in the morning with you guys, and I said, guys, I was on the field, and they could not get open. They just couldn't get open. They could not get open man-to-man. And you know what the Ravens did? They said, we're going to challenge you because we know you can't get open. We're going to challenge you. We're going to come up. We're going to be physical with you. We're going to get in your face. Your receivers can't beat us, and then we're going to get after your quarterback. And I said to you guys that morning, I was almost afraid for like Josh Allen's health if that continued because they really beat beat them up, and teams had a blueprint now against the Bills. That was a theme all year. Now, the Bills got a little better at it. They did some things. They had a really nice offensive line. They obviously brought in Amari Cooper later. That didn't go great, but it was okay for them. And, that was still something they had to do. Well, here comes Josh Palmer. This man is a man-to-man outside beater. You can look at his speed and say he's not fast enough. That's fine. He's not slow. 4.5 isn't slow. It's also not blazing fast, but that's not his game. His game is to win with route running, to win when he gets to the top of the route, to navigate, to turn around, to find the little nuances, and then to win when the ball is thrown towards him, the way he can catch the ball with someone around him. Don't look at his separation numbers, because he's not going to separate when he's always playing man-to-man in the outside. People are going to be near him, but he catches the ball with people near him. But he is going to separate based on his role compared to other people who do the same thing, if that makes sense. He's better at that thing than a lot of other people are at that thing. As far as the money's concerned, I have my reservations. I mean, $12 million a year, I think that's what it is, right?
Yep.
Is quite. I mean, we'll see what the actual money is, guys. We don't know until it comes out, but that's what the high end being reported. Sure, I will tell you, man, you got to use him now. Now, to me, it becomes on Joe Brady now. You didn't find a way to use Curtis Samuel last year, and some of that was Samuel's injury. He had a turf toe mostly all the year, dealing with it. I get it. $8 million a year wasn't extravagant, but he really was never able to be a real part of the offense. They have this everybody eats mentality. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Josh Palmer is going to be eating, 80 targets. I don't think that's the case. Maybe. He's still probably not going to be the number one option in the offense. It's probably Khalil Shakir. So at the end of the year, you might have fans say the same thing. But he absolutely fills a need the Buffalo Bills have as they're constructing a roster to fill out the parts that they need to get to the next step.
Yeah, to me, Sal, it's about those matchups where you mentioned it, like the Ravens. If a team is going to try to hammer you with man and dare you to beat them, maybe Palmer doesn't have an 80-catch season, but does he have 3 games for me over the course of the year where he has 8 catches?
Right.
And it's not just
I think I said targets, but that's what I mean. He's not going to be a monster catch guy, but he's going to make probably catches in games and in moments and matchups, as you say, Joe, that you're going to want him to be very relevant in.
It's not just, Sal, you mentioned the Ravens. Joe Marino had the numbers of the Locked On Bills podcast. The Bills in the last 2 seasons have faced more man coverage than any other team. And that's with Josh Allen as a quarterback that can run when you turn your back, and they still don't respect the Bills receivers for 2 years. So that's where Palmer fits in. All right, I feel like I want to ask about Mac Hollins and then ask about the collective of the 2 moves and put that in with Cooper. Where are the receivers? If you go just the timeline of it. Oh, Palmer's here. Great. Palmer and probably Mac Hollins, and Palmer's your Cooper replacement. And sure, it's a lateral move maybe for what Cooper is now. Now that Hollins is gone, Sal, are we right back to, all right, need another receiver in this mix?
First of all, let me say I'm just as surprised as a lot of people about Mac Hollins. I really believed he would come back to the Bills. I know for sure that him and his family really loved being in Buffalo. And I think the Bills really enjoyed having him here. To me, and I don't know this yet, haven't talked to anybody since this all went down. My sense is that the price got a little pricey for the Bills. They had Mac Hollins for a very low deal last year, $2 million. He signed for what could be up to $10 million for over 2 years with the New England Patriots. It's going to be at least 8, I think. So probably got a little pricey for the Bills. And then when they signed Josh Palmer, they're like, okay, we already spent 12 on him essentially. And Mac Hollins is probably looking and going, wait a minute now, where am I here? Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer, where do I fit in? And he has a better opportunity to play in New England. And look, I think more than anything, too, let's remember, he played with Josh McDaniels when he was in Vegas. And I think he actually did pretty well there under Josh McDaniels. Had a nice year. So, there's a relationship there. So I think that's how that probably went down. And, of course, Mac Hollins, a fan favorite, so it's tough to lose him. Yeah, they're going to have to add to wide receiver. Look, just on sheer numbers, they have 7 on the roster right now. They're probably going to add at least 6 more before training camp, to be quite honest with you guys. Does that all have to be in the draft and undrafted free agents? No. There's going to be a couple other guys out there that have professional experience, guys that are, free agents right now with other teams. There's no doubt about that. Amari Cooper is a free agent. I'd be stunned right now as I sit here, if the Bills bring back Amari Cooper, you know who Amari Cooper is? He's the new Josh Palmer, to be quite honest with you. Like, isn't that what Amari Cooper's game was? Not the fastest guy in the world, but a guy that can beat man coverage on the outside, and he can do it with route running. Like, that's what he is. And I'm not saying that Josh Palmer is Amari Cooper. Like, the production obviously is not the same. But isn't that style of the game the same thing they just signed?
He might have more than Cooper has right now. I mean, otherwise, I don't know what Cooper's going to get. I don't know how much.
Right.
But
I think the numbers back up that if you even remember his biggest plays with the Bills, they were contested catches. So he can make an impact doing that, but his days to me of getting open one-on-one like that are probably, like, I kind of view the Palmer move as an upgrade. Not like anything dramatic, but if we're comparing to what Cooper was with the Bills, and it's the separation and the man beating, like I almost feel like Palmer could be an upgrade.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And for this year, and my point was, I'm not comparing their careers, obviously. Amari was very good, even young Amari, early in his career, is very good. So I'm not comparing their careers, but at that point, he is kind of a Cooper replacement and probably an upgrade in that regard at this point in time in both of their careers. Okay, so you look down the roster. So we all know they have Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Samuel, KJ Hamler, Tyrell Shavers, Jalen Virgil. Maybe Tyrell Shavers becomes your Mac Hollins replacement. This is a guy that we saw his first ever NFL touch, took it to the house, really nice play. But he's a guy that we all thought had a really nice training camp, really nice preseason. He can play on the outside, and he's a bigger body, he's taller, and he can play on special teams. He can be a gunner. And what Mac Hollins did for you a little bit. So I think if you're actually looking for a Mac Hollins replacement, why did he be on your roster in Tyrell Shavers?
The other agreement not yet signed, Michael Hoecht, Sal, who is what does he do? Everything? Is he Does he play corner? Does he play safety? I mean, he does stuff in the front seven. That's basically how we can look at him. Former Rams player who signs a decent deal and gives the Bills. Would it be wrong to say he gives them a bit of a wild card kind of player?
Yeah, this is really interesting to me. First of all, let me ask you guys. I put these guys on my spreadsheet, on my roster. I really had to think about where to put him. Where would you put him if you were me? What position? Under what position on your spreadsheet roster? Where should I put him?
This is like what position should Taysom Hill be in your fantasy league? He should be to at least be edge or tackle. Like if you could put like a D line category. But if I'm looking at his snap cell, it does look like he plays more. Like, do you do by edge, by the way, or do you defensive end and linebacker?
I have DE/edge as one category. I have DT and I have LB.
I'd probably put him there just because that's where he plays the most. But I mean, even that, like there's a DT solid
edge?
chunk at other places.
DE edge. I mean,
yeah, DE
you put him
edge,
at defensive end edge.
Yeah,
that's what I did. I put him at edge because what I really think is it's not where he's played. I swear I think he'll play for the Bills more than anything.
Okay.
Right.
For an edge, Sal, he's huge, right?
Yeah, he's big.
I guess.
Oh,
wait,
I
can't even say that because sometimes he's 311, sometimes he's 260. So I guess I can't even.
That's funny,
right? He's played these different positions, but also at different sizes.
Well, yeah, and listen, I know he's not the exact same size. In that regard, he's kind of like Dwan Smoot, who can play inside and outside, right? Where you need a guy who can play a little bit of both. He's a bigger guy who can play on the outside. You feel comfortable with that. And Dwan Smoot actually is a much bigger body, 264. Although this guy, he's been on? He's been up to. Oh no! Wait a minute! No, what is his size? Let me go get it right now.
Pro Football Focus
I just had it here for a second.
List him at 310, 6'4", 310.
Right.
But he's also played at 267.
Okay. There you go. 267. Wait, 6'4", 267. So I was thinking about this. 6'3", 264 for Juwan Smoot, right? So he actually becomes, in that regard, the inside-outside guy as your Juwan Smoot replacement. The difference is this guy, as you said, he can morph. He's like a transformer, right? I mean, it's like, where do you want me to be? What do you want me to be today? I could be inside. I could be outside. I can be a defensive end. I can linebacker. I can drop in coverage. One thing I would be confident in saying, he's not going to play pure linebacker for the Bills because he's not a true off-the-ball linebacker like a Terrell Bernard or a Matt Milano. The Bills roll with two linebackers. He's not a Mike and he's not a Will. When he plays linebacker, it's more on the outside, it's more on the edge, it's more off the ball. But if you need him to do that, you can. It also reminded me of, you guys remember when the Bills signed Lorenzo Alexander years ago and we had the same conversation?
Yeah. What position is he? Yeah.
Lorenzo Alexander played offensive line and defensive line before going to linebacker and doing all different things that he did in defensive end, whatever. So, the reason why I say is a super interesting signing. So I think this is a bit of a departure for what the Bills do a lot of times, guys. the Bills don't really, they love versatility. But generally, the versatility is you kind of know, okay, this guy's going to be your safety linebacker tweener, right? This guy's going to be your edge defensive tackle, can kick inside, outside. They love versatility. This is a totally different kind of versatile player where, I mean, I don't know who he replaces and when, but they're going to have a lot of options to do that during the game because of what you said. Like, can't remember a player the Bills have had really where exactly and when is he going to line up somewhere? This is like almost on offense picking, I don't know, is this like a Dalton Kincaid, I guess, right? You draft him and say, think of him as a wide receiver, Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
Like you could line him up. You could flex him out. They love versatility. We all know that, and I'll be the first to tell you that. I'm saying this is the different kind of versatile. And the other thing is, if you told me that they were going to sign a defensive player on day one of free agency, I would have thought it'd be a big, like, space-eating defensive tackle or a pure edge rusher. Now, he is more pure edge rusher than a space-eating defensive tackle, but he's all these different things. I find it fascinating. He did have 6 sacks 2 years ago, and then he was only down to 3 last year. In that 6-sack season, he actually started all 17 games. One thing about him I really do like as well, he has played every single game all 4 years of his NFL career. Mm-hmm. He's been available, which is very big for the Bills. What they like to have, guys that are available. He is a guy who's from Ontario. He has only played in the NFL. He's an undrafted free agent out of Brown University, by the way, an Ivy League school. So he's smart. Everything I read about him is he's a dog. Like he's kind of a guy that you just love having around, right, in your locker room. Very high energy. He reminds me of the athleticism that Connor McGovern had that we talked about when he was signed as well, where he could play center, he could play guard, he even played a little fullback for the Dallas Cowboys. So I wonder if they have a specific position they see him as, or if they're really going to move him around the board like, should I say, a chess piece.
Yeah. His relative athletic score checks out with what the Bills like, a 9.93. And elite athleticism, explosion, agility, all that. Chris Trapasso pointed out that his pressure rate at defensive edge has been 11% the last 2 years. As Joe mentioned in the update, he played slot defender, which is
find the video of him covering DK Metcalf and knocking the ball
away. And it's
away.
not just one play. 33 snaps as a slot defender, a bunch of snaps at linebacker. Right, so chess piece. He'll be one of the most interesting guys to watch at training camp. Sal, like every once in a while, how are they going to use this guy? What are they doing with this guy? So it's interesting. As we turn the page, Sal, to...
Wait, can I say one more thing?
Sure, yeah.
He also plays a lot of special teams, and he blocked 3 kicks last year. Right. He blocked 3 kicks last year. He blocked 2 field goals and a PAT last year.
Yeah.
Did he do it by jumping over the center? I feel like all we're hearing about him is he might be capable of that, too.
I don't know. Yeah, but think about that. I mean, that's somebody you think, okay, we're going to also put him on special teams. He's going to play for us there, and he kind of fills a need, as you're, throughout your roster.
By the way, what I read is like middle of the pack and all the pass rushing stuff.
Very good against the run.
Top level, like rush grades and numbers, whatever. Between him and I guess Palmer, too, because of the money, Sal, like we've talked so much about a big name defensive end this offseason. Is anything the Bills did yesterday with contracts make you think that a big ticket item, if it late falls in their lap, is now off the table?
Well, let me give you some names on that, because that's what I wanted to get to with Sal next. Was if you want a big ticket defensive end, who's out there? Zadarius Smith?
It's still Hendrickson. But
it's Hendrickson in a trade.
And then Smith, yeah.
And maybe if you want interior, Charles Omenihu. I've also got Jonathan Allen, of course, from the Commanders. So there are some pieces out there, Sal. What do you think about that? Big ticket defensive end still in the mix, and more free agent signings today potentially in the mix?
There's always a way, guys. There's always a way. If you really want to do it, you can. And listen, I'll say this again because we don't know. It really depends on what the salary cap money is. If there's a bigger ticket defensive end, does it have to be a guy that you sign to a longer-term deal? Can it be a one-year deal and you've been saving up some money this year by structuring these contracts? Greg Rousseau's contract, he was going to make $13.5 million. They moved it down to just 5 this year and 11 next year. Like they're saving money these next 2 years on the salary cap. We don't know the Bernard numbers yet. I'm sure that's going to come in the same way. Same thing they did with Shakir. So there's going to be some money here if they want. They can figure out a way to have some money. They could still play in that realm if you want. We'll see how it is, but we don't know the exact numbers. So Palmer and Hoecht as well. Like, we hear these numbers. Palmer, $12 million, $12 million. It's sticker shock for a lot of people. Folks, wait till we know the exact details. It could very well be that he signed, and for this year he's going to make, $5, $6 million and count maybe 6 on the cap or something like that. And then next year it's a tick higher, but you can get out of it after 2 years, and there's not as much guaranteed. So let's see where the money falls for all these guys. But I would think if they want to, they can always find a way to do that. Same thing on the interior. You talked about Jonathan Allen. Calais Campbell still out there. Javon Hargrave, he's a little older now, but I will tell you, years ago, I knew the Bills were interested in Javon Hargrave. That was when he went, I think, from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia at the time, I think. So there's still some guys out there. We'll see. Sebastian Joseph Day is a guy that a lot of people have always felt that could fit for the Bills. But they're going to have to sign guys. I mean, look, they can't just fill out the rest of the roster, again, only with draft picks and undrafted free agents. I have them at 58 active players right now after yesterday's move. They have to get to 90 before training camp.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Sal, we'll talk again tomorrow, I'm sure, because, more stuff in the NFL today. Do you have any non-Bills move you found to be the most interesting?
I came back from the Combine saying I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers might be the most interesting team that I was hearing about at the Combine and what's going to happen, only because who knows what's going to happen. And I think yesterday's still very interesting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the quarterback carousel, that whole group right there. I just kept listening yesterday. X was down yesterday. Twitter was down. So I turned it on the TV side. I was listening to Schefter and everybody talk about how there's basically 3 teams: the Jets, the Giants, and the Steelers, and there's 3 quarterbacks: Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. And one's going to go one, the other one's going to go the other, and the third one's going to go there. And my thought kept being, well, is this up to is there a hierarchy here? Is one of the 3 the most coveted, or is there a preferred landing spot for the 3 here? Well, we know now Justin Fields is at the Jets. That's super interesting. The Bills will face Justin Fields. They're going to be all that great this year. We'll see. And then obviously now you have maybe a kind of an unofficial trade of quarterbacks if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Steelers for Justin, and Justin Fields is in the Jets. That's like a swap. And then does that leave Russell Wilson with the Giants? Or does Aaron Rodgers go with the Giants? I haven't seen anything overnight, but to me, that's very, very interesting what's going on.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. We'll get a break in. Paul Hamilton on the other side on the Sabres. Thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys.
Plenty of free agents still out there. Some trades, of course, to be had. I mean, Trey Hendrickson and probably a few that we don't even quite know about right now. So we'll, of course, keep track of that. Sal coming up with the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show throughout the week as well as we track all these moves.